Hi, Shiri.
Shalom Einat. So, what are we talking about today?
So today we're talking about one of the most pressing problem that humanity is essentially self-inflicting.
Wow. Can't wait.
Are you excited?
Yes, and a little bit concerned.
So I think that by self-inflicting, that's the positive part of it, because there is a solution. It's just that humanity, for some reason, is not working towards that solution, and that's why we're going to talk about it. So we're only going to start and tease today,
Yes.
start to present it, and then we'll obviously talk about it more throughout the next episodes as we talk about also about happiness.
I like it that we touch things and then we go into depth because that's how we do things.
Let's start.
Please.
Okay, so I want to take us back before I talk about the actual problem that we're going to talk about today. I've been 15 years in the retail space. And if you think about retail is essentially someone that wants to sell something and someone that wants to buy something. And how do we match them? I've been doing this for 15 years, mainly in the luxury and fashion space. I've been doing very, very different roles. So started as a store associate, but then also did a photo shoot in Paris, was the lead of a CVC of a corporate venture for a luxury fashion retailer, worked with innovation in the startup space, in the fashion space, and then also did a lot of like finance and the business of fashion. And interestingly, if we look at the retail space, what we see is that we started with having stores, having people buy locally, physically in the stores.
Okay.
And then at some point we had internet, and then we started having these online experience. Now, interestingly, the fashion industry, especially luxury, didn't take in the online shopping so fast. We have until today brands, the high ultra brands that don't even allow purchasing online.
But do you know why?
Because in retail, the experience is extremely crucial. The retailers understand that in order to make you buy, they need to provide to you an experience. So they didn't lean into the internet shopping experience at the beginning because they wanted to make sure that the experience is refined. And so a lot of the things they're not implementing first. They first want to make sure that the experience that they provide to the customers is really going to be valuable for the customers, and only then they implement it. And the higher you go with the level of brand, the more cautious they are in implementing it. Super interesting to see it. And then they did start to lean into it, especially as other brands, the lower level started. So they started eating their piece of the pie, and then they were forced to start doing it. Even at the beginning, the experience wasn't that well. If we look at today at where we are with the retail experience, essentially we have two experiences. One is if you go to the store, you're able to see the fabric, to touch it, to try it on. Very valuable things as the experience of shopping. Or you have the shopping online. You can do it from your bed. You have all the information. If you want to know which colors you have it in, if you want to know which sizes, it's available really easy. If you want to filter the entire store by size, if you want to do all those like information, very easy. But what we came into is we have two very distinct experiences that are sharing light at what's missing in the other one. And so the retail space has invested a lot throughout the last years trying to mitigate those two and combine them into an experience that would be the omni-channel. There are so many different ways to it in the retail space. And so in order to combine and allow you while you're in the store to have the endless aisle and to have all that information that you're looking into, and then while you're at home, help you figure out what's the size that would fit you, what the fit is going to look like what's the fabric is going to look like. So much is being invested in mitigating those two things that are needed. And if you think about it, there's a huge incentive to do it because shipping and returns is such a costly thing. And the retailer have a monetization reason to do it. Now, if we take this retail thing, which is shopping, very good. We talked about happiness a bit and how happiness is not about this, but sometimes it does provide us happiness.
It makes me think for a second because all that you described takes me first for the corona, where people were not able to go out or they were afraid to see other people. So the whole experience was from the privacy of their home and the secure space. But the other thing, the loss of the engagement. It's like the fun of going and buying something because now you can have it in different colors, in different shapes, in different ways. You just bring everything home and then ship back what you don't want.
Yeah.
And in the happiness world, like creating the experience is part of the happiness thing. When you work hard for something, you want to buy that purse or that bag or that shoes. So when you work hard and that will be the prize, there is a sentiment of satisfaction and meaning into that because I worked so hard for that and finally I got this with my own earned money, So
it's so interesting what you're just saying, and we'll get back to it because it is such a critical aspect of how you design process for human beings, because you want to create those rewards. You want to create that value. Like what you're saying is essentially, if we worked hard for something, it provides us happiness.
It's like we like the value of that. There is a lot of research being done about people that won the lottery and they lose their money in a heartbeat because it's not a hard-earned money. But there is also other things that you see. And I think it's a little bit of a segue here. So we will discuss it maybe later, how people that see other people have money, how it makes them feel about purchasing stuff.
That's a fascinating thing that you just mentioned. And yeah, we definitely need to touch more on this because this consumer type of behavior that we're in is actually, again, humanity self-inflicting pain into the way that we're living. And so definitely we need to dive into it. So going back to this retail, if we think about those two experiences that we have, the offline and the online, and how they are not connecting, but how retail is working into connecting them. Now, retail, while it's valuable and creates happiness to us, and we all want to shop, and it's creating the economy, all good things, not against it. If we take that understanding and we take it to the way that we date today, it's essentially exactly the same problem. We used to date offline. Then we introduced, and you mentioned COVID. COVID made everything more extreme, and remote work and all of that. We do things today digitally. We're not really working to combine them. And it's fascinating how us as human are designing products for human with being technology first and not being human centered. And we have, it's unreal. We have all the knowledge about behavioral psychology and how humans interact and hormones and biology works when we date. But then we go and we design products being technology first, not thinking about what we as human need in order to date and in order to connect with each other, and taking the easy route into what is the easiest platform to build. And
so I love the direction this conversation is going, because it made me think, first of all, about cognitive psychology. Is what we think create our behavior, or is first there is the behavior and then what we think? And also research about choice. What happens when you have too much choice? What happens when you have less of choice? And that's also from the psychology of marketing, because online dating, and both of us are in it in one way or another, it's you need to sell the product, which is you. There is so many buyers, and it's so easy to do that swipe.
And that's exactly right. And we're going to talk throughout the next episodes on all of those things and how us as individual, what are some tactics that we can do, and what companies also as designing these products should aspire to do.
So I want to ask you one question before we go. Let's go to say that you are going to buy ice cream now, okay? How many flavors do you think there should be?
Is that,
it's a psychological question.
No, but it's also a problem because I'm familiar with the jam experiment, but share the jam experiment.
No, so answer, like, what do you think? How many will be like reasonable choices
6
of flavors? So the average will say we need minimum of 6, maximum of 15. Because if we'll have only 4 kind of flavors to choose from, even though we know what we like. What is your favorite flavor?
I don't like ice cream. I'll say vanilla for
So if there will be only like 4 flavors, like let's say chocolate, vanilla, pistachio, and mocha, you'll be like, I don't want to buy here because it's not enough. If there will be 40 kind of flavors, you will be, oh my God, this is too much. I can't
Yeah.
deal with this. So we need to have some kind of a choice, a free
Yeah.
choice, a free will. If it's too much, it makes us don't even want to try. If it's less, then there is nothing, that there's no challenge.
Yeah.
So the idea is that we do need to make some kind of a choice, a conscious choice, not too less and not too many. It should be, like Goldilocks, just right.
Yeah.
Now, I feel sometimes in the dating world, it's like it's so overwhelming that sometimes I will find myself like swiping, like I will look at the height, I will look at the picture, I will look at the height, I will sometimes look at the name. And if the name doesn't sound right to me, like I will be, okay, no, this is not going to happen. But it's very fast. And you know what? The other thing is that sometimes we do it when we're bored. When do you scroll? When you want to look for stuff that you want to buy,
Yeah.
like the retail, like you're sitting there, the phone is next to you and you just scroll. And all of a sudden, oh, I really needed that dress, or I really needed that lamp.
Yeah. There's also just the biology that we're going through as we're swiping and the many choices that we have. There's so much knowledge about the way that we need to date and our biology in the process. But then the humans that are designing these, they sometimes take it into account, but they're not taking into account in the way that really solves what humanity needs. And sometimes it's just about taking the shortcut. So you talked about the height, the name, like some of those like quick questions that we have on the app. This is taking the shortcut because we know from research that that's not the way you create meaningful relationship. There's the 36 questions that is a very famous research where they took females and male and they forced them to ask each other very deep questions. And they knew these are the questions that someone else forced them to ask. And those are very meaningful questions that they need to go through. And it's interesting also at the end of that, they needed to look in the eyes of the other person for 4 minutes.
Oh, wow.
But it's insane how much we know that creates value in order to create the relationship. And yet we're forcing people and we're nudging people into being on these apps, swiping right, swiping left, and not really creating meaningful relationship. So going back to the beginning, it's a self-inflicted problem. And we're all at the end of it more lonely, more sad, more prone to be extremist. And it's so absurd because we have the knowledge on how to solve this, but we're not doing it. So going back to the retail, in retail, we have companies that their motivation is to make the consumer buy from them. And I think some of the challenges here, it's the person that's the companies that are responsible on these dating, what is their incentive? And so we need to figure out how do we create the right incentive for people, for organization, for-profit organization, to create the right process for human beings to find what they're looking for. And there's so many amazing examples on how, like, tricks that we trick people, that we nudge them into making the right decision. And you talked about choice before. So it's not forcing them to do something. It's allowing them and nudging them in a way that if they don't have a preference, will push them into what we believe is the right thing. And I'll give an example, but I have to say something before. There is a responsibility. There's this concept behind that. We're the architect. Whoever designed the options, they're the architect of the option. And they have the ability to nudge people into the right direction. What is right? So this is obviously some core issue. But I think we all agree in a sense that being lonely is probably not the best thing for you and that you want to create meaningful relationship. And I want to give a quick example on how an architect of option can nudge people into making the right decision. And so there's this very famous example of where you put elevator in an office space really makes a difference on how many people would use the elevator versus the stairs. So if you think about it, if the stairs are farther and they're like these like closed space and the elevator is really close to you, you might take the elevator. But if we put the elevator farther and we put the stairs in a more bright, nice space, people would probably be more keen to take the stairs. Now you'd say, okay, so the space is already built, too late. What do we do now? But they actually found that if you make the elevator door close 16 seconds late, people are more likely to take stairs over the elevator. So there's so many small tricks, and it's fascinating also. It's unreal how even if you know the trick, it still works on your brain.
I don't come from a consumer world,
Okay.
but it's very interesting because, yeah, there are different kind of things. And we know also in the biology of women, how we react sometimes in a relationship, because when you see a picture, it's one thing. But when you see the actual person, it always makes the difference. Sometimes people say, oh, we text a lot. Texting is not a relationship. You need to see the person in person. And different kind of even spaces, like the way that you design space with the color that you choose. And you and I, we know it because we chose this room. There was a reason.
Yeah.
But you felt it in your gut. Remember, like when you came in, we looked around and we were like, okay, this is the atmosphere, the colors, the decorations. They create the vibe that we want to share with other people. And knowing what's working on us doesn't mean that it's not going to work on us.
Which is insane.
With what Daniel Kahneman, he won a Nobel Prize in behavioral economics because there is no Nobel Prize for psychology. And he said that we have two systems of thinking. And we think that we think from a rational perspective, but we don't. The system that always kicks in, it's the one that it's more primitive and it's more intuitive. That's how we do things. And then we try to navigate through that and to give different kind of rationalization to those ideas, but it's not. It's very intuitive. Sometimes when you go into a store, I would bring myself like anthropology. For me, anthropology is experience, even if I don't find anything, because the way that it's being designed, because they change every time, like according to the season.
Okay.
And because it's a store that has different other elements, it's not only clothes. They still sell me a lifestyle. So we want some kind of a lifestyle. And if you think about that, Instagram also, we follow people that sell us some kind of a lifestyle. Either we find it interesting or we say, oh, I really don't want this kind of a lifestyle. So when we put it into a kind of a relationship, we are fantasizing about that person, what kind of a lifestyle I'm going to have.
Yeah.
And all these pieces create the engagement. The thing is, as you were saying, what the challenge is to create that engagement and make it last. Because you can, in the store, you say, oh, I really needed that kind of a shirt. I really needed, even Pinterest, when you follow and you see different kind of things and how the collages are being made, you're like, oh, I really needed that. And when you get it, you're like, what? What was I thinking? So there is the set and the setting, but also the emotion that you're coming to that. Are you coming with the sense of, I really want to buy something new, like I want the pleasure in that? Or you're coming to buy from a place of, oh my God, I'm so desperate, I have to get this thing. And it's the same thing in relationship. Am I going open-minded, willing to put myself out there, and Brené Brown words, being vulnerable with courage? Or am I going, I'm so desperate, so let me find it. And you know many times how when you go and you say, oh my God, I have an event and I have to get that perfect dress, and you never find that perfect dress. But when you go shopping just and you'll find exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah. So you talked about the anthropology, and I want to give an example of a trick that it's fascinating how one store that is using it and another isn't. If we look at TJ Maxx, what they create, when you get into the store, you see one piece on the shelf. You wouldn't see them multiple from the same thing. They have the stock at the back, and they do it deliberately in order to make you feel as if you wouldn't buy it now, you wouldn't have it. On the other hand, if you go to stores like Nordstrom, not to talk about the inventory that they have, which is awful, not to talk about the VM that they have, which is awful, very boring experience as you walk through. They don't create that gamification and that satisfaction and that urgency that you have in order to shop, in order to make the decision now. And if you think about it, the dating world can learn so much out of these like principle and implement it in a way that would make us act. Now, the core thing is to define what is act in the dating world and what are we trying to get to. But there's so much that we can learn from other fields into creating those processes that would benefit to us, because we're creating a much lonelier world. So one of these one of these processes that we're going to take a deeper dive into the next episodes is definitely going to be dating, because that is a crucial problem that we need to solve. And then the other one is also finding a job. Because if we think about it, these are two fundamental things that we as human beings are searching for while we're creating these like very broken experience of Tinder and LinkedIn and making humankind being very frustrated. A lot of us were born to this world with all the best cards.
I love
but we're unable to find those like very basic things.
I love it how you said Tinder and LinkedIn in the same sentence.
Yes.
And I have a friend of mine, and she's been looking for a job for a while. And she said, you know what? I don't know. I don't get it. I will get an interview and they will interview me. It will go perfectly. And it will be like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And they will be, we will call you back, and they don't call me back. And I was like, welcome to the dating world. And I have, on the other hand, friends that they own a company and they are like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. Like all these emotions, all these things that are rising. So the search for the right job, or I will call it the right calling, what you want to do in your life, and searching for a relationship is a similar experience in a way.
It's a similar experience and it's a similar significance, because these are two very, very big things that we need to figure out. And so many of us are unable. Now, if you think about it, we're way better positioned like today than our parents were. But we're not better able and equipped to actually solve this.
You know what? It's interesting because it's yes and no. Because back in the day, you used to go, not even university, you went to high school, maybe a little bit, you did a few years of college, and then you got the job for your life. Like my dad worked at the same job in Nova for all of his life. That is what you do. And actually, if you resign from a job or quit your job, it's like, oh my God, where will you go? So you had that one thing that prepared you for the rest of your life. And then came like this generation that no, you switch between jobs every 2 or 3 years. Either you get bored or you want to be more challenged, or you go to study or you go to school. So you accumulate all these practices and all this notion. And also in the dating world, back in the day, you find your high school sweetheart and you were expected to marry him and have the children and live happily ever after, which was not that happily, as we know. But it was very traditional way of thinking. I don't think we were supposed to be this way because yes, you get bored after a while, but that was the cultural maybe idea of how things are supposed to be. And now we're living in this new generation of also AI, which is also part of that. And creating you have so much, as we said, choices and possibilities in the workplace and in relationship that you get confused. And I don't remember where I read it once, but the technology is very, very advanced on one hand, but on the other hand, our brain stayed the same as our ancestors that were sitting together in the community by the bonfire telling stories. Our brain is still primitive according to technology. Like we're not there yet. So we might change in the generations to come. So the difference between being alone and being lonely and the way that you search certain kind of things means that we do still need that kind of a connection. But the way to do it is different and we need to adjust to that.
And you're hitting the nail on the head with exactly my dream. So I'm getting a lot of entrepreneurs that are building startups in the dating space. And they're all working on how to better match once you're in the app. So what's the process? Maybe things like the league where they do only 5 matches a day. They allow you to only see 5 people a day. Or sending a rose so it's showing that someone really wants you. And all of these like nuances and spin-off while you're in the app, how do you match? The magic is actually in connecting the offline and the online. And you talked about the communities, the bonfire that used to be. So if you think about today, and we filmed this in New York, how many membership clubs are there? How many third places people are looking to be in? Because people are working remote, but they still need that human connection. And so think about how many missed opportunities of spaces that you're at that have people very like-minded, socioeconomic, place of living, so many things like values that are connected, but yet you go to that event and there's, instead of at those events having technology to help you match and to help you navigate all those frictions, and like maybe starting to talk to someone is hard, so let's implement technology in order to make those friction easier, they move you off like only to start digitally and not doing those connections. So if you think about the gala event and all those communities that you go to and the nonprofit organization events that we go to, if you think about Soho House, if you think about Equinox, all those places that we're at, or when I do my morning walk at Central Park, when I go into the subway and I meet someone that live across from me, all these things are opportunities for us to have human connections with people that were already there, in creating the best, whether it's for dating and whether it's for work. There are such a missed opportunities that we're not designing the right processes to help us. And again, like Soho House and Equinox are my dream. So well, I got to this space again, from the retail and learning all these tools and all these tricks and to implement into the retail space. All these like tricks we need to implement into the dating life, but there's the opportunity of having places like Soho House and Equinox. And these are companies that they have the motivation, they have the members. You have human beings coming into your space. They want those interconnection. Make them. Soho House is a public company. Now it might go private. That is not doing financially well because the real estate space that they're in is very costly and their business model is not lucrative enough and not creating enough cash. And so there's an opportunity for spaces like that. And that is my dream. And I've assembled the perfect team. So Soho House, I got done really excited. I have the best design team that does like work with Google and Microsoft and helping them design like the right processes. And then I have a company that does the actual building of the application. And so I realized that I used to wait for other people to do this. And I kind of realized that it's maybe upon me to be the one in the space.
So what is your vision? And before you answer, what you're talking reminded me of something I learned in the happiness studies. We had a class about philosophy. And one of the philosophers was Epicurus. And it's not the Epicurus that didn't believe in God. He had a different thing. He called the Epicurus garden. And the Epicurus garden was actually like a school. It was like a building where he used to share like with his friends, and people used to come over. They used to talk. They used to have to bathe. There was a bath there, to give lectures. It was like a hub, a place to meet and greet and with similar minded people and be curious and make the connections. And I feel that in the way that you're talking, your vision, it's like this kind of a happiness retreats every day kind of a thing for people to come over. But another issue that sometimes I see is even if people are in public spaces, let's say like we work, because that was the intention, bring people instead of sitting in the house, sitting in a common area where they can chat and be with one another. People are on their phone all the time. Sometimes I go on the train and I put my phone on the side and I just look around, and most people are on their phone and they don't even realize the opportunities that I'm going to miss because they're not interacting. And you said about the 4 minutes looking inside the eyes. That's all it takes to make a real connection. I don't remember, again, I read it somewhere there is a place, a library, I think, where you don't rent a book, you rent a person to sit with you just to talk. I know it's horrifying, but the idea is that even like the easiest, the simplest thing of looking someone in the eye and having that kind of a truthful, authentic, honest kind of a communication, it's enough for us to feel validated.
And that goes exactly to the nudge. A lot of people are in their phone because they might want to have those connections. Why does someone go to Soho House? Why does someone choose to sit at Soho House and not at home?
Because you want to see the people.
But you might not know how to do it.
Yeah.
And that's where we can introduce technology and not use technology, not being technology first, Not being like, oh, we have technology, we have e-commerce, we have online, let's see where we plug this. But being like, what does a person need? How is that friction of making that first connection? How do we nudge them into being able to do it in a less frictious way? And how do we make those connections when they want it to be? And so we need to be mindful also, it's not one size fits them all.
Yeah.
So when you go to Equinox, or when you go to Soho House, or when you go to Chez Margot, which is like the more luxury Soho House, it's a different thing. You might have members that don't want to speak. What I love about the Soho House app is when you get into a house, it offers you to either be visible to everyone, visible also to only to people you're connected with, or not visible. So if you're in a space that you just literally got there because you need to work on something and you don't want anyone to speak to, you can. It's an option. And it's really about being very mindful in the way that we design, again, being thoughtful about what space we're at, what type of members, where are they getting there, and allowing them the option to reduce that friction that we know that today is even harder because, to your point, where it's easy if we're sitting in a bar, would I sit and look at the bar? No, I'll pick my phone to not seem as miserable as by myself. And so how do we reduce that friction and create that connection and allow people to reach out to each other in a meaningful way? Because we don't want to allow those filter by the height, filter by their pants size. We want to allow them to create those more meaningful questions, more meaningful conversation, and you maybe even put it on the app. It's okay, we're forcing you to select this question. In one of the research that they did is they use that thoughtfulness into, these are the only 20 questions that you can ask. They're going to be embarrassing, but it's on us. We elected those 20 questions and you have to pick out of them. So when you ask an embarrassing question, I had to ask it. They made me do it. So in some way, we can take the responsibility out of the individual and allow them to nudge them into the right place.
And you know what? It's that, again, it reminded me of another research I read about that they took people and they forced them to make small conversations on the bus. And then they asked them how it was. And people actually found the ride on the bus or the subway much more enjoyable when someone was talking to them than left them be and be only on the phone.
Yeah.
So we are eager to make a connection. We do want to make connection. But another thing I was thinking as you were talking was about being the laziness. People are a little bit lazy. It's the same way with the swiping. It's the same way of now I'm going to meet someone and now I need to get dressed and bedazzle and be the best version of myself because I'm selling myself. I want to be out there. So sometimes there is something, lazy. Even I remember during the corona, working from home, it was very easy because you didn't have to go into your car or to drive to the place to make the effort. So we are also missing that part in an effort because when you go to the gym, if you will do only the easy classes, the easy exercises, you will be bored. When it's effortless, and you don't need to work a little bit for it, we find it boring and we don't want to invest into that.
Yeah. And it's also, you talked about COVID and working from home. When we make the decision daily to today, do I want to work from home? Do I want to go to the office? I want to work from home. I don't want to wake up, dress. Doesn't make sense. It's a waste of time. But then at the end of the week, when you look back, are you more happy because you make all those small decisions? Not necessarily. And so there are places where we need, again, to make that push into us as human beings figuring out what is those higher things that we need to decide in order to build also for ourselves. It's not just putting it on the corporation to build the process for us, but also on ourselves.
In the movies in the 80s, they used to see all the people walking in New York, a zillion of people going in and out of the office. And you're like, oh my God, they're in the rat chase. But now I'm thinking about that. Yeah, but that everybody were in it. You were not by yourself. So you were part of something. Yeah. So the rat maze or chase or whatever you need to do, it's something that takes you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I feel that's another thing of getting out of your comfort zone. And putting yourself out there and doing certain kind of things that you don't sure where they're going to take you, but you are willing to make the effort for that.
And being open to rejection, which we know is a part of dating and applying for a job.
Yep.
But we can also leverage technology in order to reduce that friction and make it not as painful, not avoiding it, but allow people to be more inclined to do it. And Scott Galloway, I just heard him talk about porn and how we have a lot of guys, especially, being addicted to porn because it's so easy for them. And he talks about like during his college that if he wanted sex, he knew he needed to like dress up, show up, and that allowed him also to finish college. And what we have today is porn is so easy. It's at home. Again, we developed all of these processes that are only going to get us frustrated. So if I'll be on the app, it doesn't promise me anything. And so we're creating this problem of why would men show up to, like men and women, why do we show up to try to be excellent? We don't need to show it up. And so many people are also meeting their spouse at work because that's where you can truly connect and show your excellency.
This is like, so I don't know how we got from retail marketing to porn, but that's a very good way to go. Very interesting, because porn is also about creating intimacy. And that's something that we're not talking a lot, because the thing today, it's about the sexting and it's very easy and it's out there. And there is OnlyFans, for example, that people like put themselves on OnlyFans. But the thing is that this doesn't create intimacy. It's, again, the quick fix. It's the immediate gratification. So, mind my language. I feel horny. I will go to porn. I will go to OnlyFans. I will pick what I want to see. And then there will be immediate gratification. But you didn't create a relationship. This is not the relationship with the other person. And one of the things that we do see in men that are watching porn most of the time and get satisfied by porn, later on, it's very hard for them to be with a woman because it's not the same system and it doesn't work the same way. But the areas in the brain, we have a center for pleasure, but we also have a different center that it's for relationship and building the intimacy. And it's different places in the brain. And intimacy comes by getting to know the person. And by swiping very quickly, you're not getting to know the person or not even seeing him like first or second or third date. It needs time, it needs patience to build the relationship. But that, you know what, and in a very weird, peculiar, associative way, I'm thinking about it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. It's me going to Zara and trying or looking at a few clothes that don't fit well, or going to a very good tailored store that I know that the cost might be higher, but it would sit better on me and I need to try it on. And it's about the quality of what I'm buying. So I feel also in relationship, what am I looking for? What is the quality, and not getting satisfied so quickly? It's okay to give it time.
But so to that, I think I come to it with a lot of compassion and empathy to the human beings that are in this search for either a job or dating at this era, because I think we're setting all of us to failure. And as a single person, it's very unclear what am I to do in order to find it. And scrolling on Instagram, I need to work on myself. I need to be more accurate. And at the end of the day, these apps are not helping me. So I don't blame anyone that goes to porn, because I think there's not a path that we know that if we invest time in, we'll succeed in dating and a job. It's not the level of effort. It's not a right path that you'd go to. And we talked more on dating but less on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, it's a great place. You have it's kind of like the yellow pages that we used to have for everything. But there's so many things there that are wrong. So I'll give an example. And whenever I talk to someone that is reaching out to me and is building their career, and the first thing I tell them, if you get rejected on LinkedIn, don't forget that a lot of the jobs there are not true, like they're ghost jobs. And I didn't realize it when I was looking for a really long time. And LinkedIn is such a draining also experience. But a lot of the things there, so you sit and you spend a lot of time and making your CV accurate to the words that the employers is putting. And at the end of the day, when I was going through that process, I reached to everyone knows that if you want to get accepted, it's not enough to apply through LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. What you need to do is find someone from the organization and to have them refer you. So I had a lot of close friends, whether it's like in a lot of the big corporation in America. And a lot of them came back after talking to the recruiters, telling me either one, that company is essentially not hiring now external because they know that they're in their firing stage. So the people that are hiring the recruiters are forced to select someone internally for that role. So you would have tens of jobs on LinkedIn that they're not hiring externally. Mm-hmm. To add to that, anyone that was in like the H-1B green card process knows that if it's from a job place, the employer needs to put an ad for 90 days, I think, to put your role to show that they cannot hire an American. Mm-hmm. So essentially, they're not trying to hire anyone, but they have this role online available for accepting applicants that they're not hiring to. Yeah. So all these roles, we have all these people searching for a job, going through like updating the CV to the verbiage, reading through the like lengthy, horrible. And the job is not there. And you also need to work into finding the connection. I do want to say to LinkedIn that going back to the retail example, there is a lot of like good things that happen there. So there's this law, I think it's in all the states, but definitely New York, that now they have to put the salary range. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Because that allows us to figure out like, what's the range? So especially as female, knowing not to ask below it and maybe go into the high range. And then also what roles we shouldn't even reach out to and shouldn't spend time on because the salary is not in what the range that we're looking for. So there's a lot of great valuable there. It's just, we need to figure out a way. And I see so many of my friends, they're finding roles in the WhatsApp groups.
Yeah. And you know what? It all goes to the same thing of trying to buy something, trying to sell yourself, finding the right wording. But it's a show. And we all playing that show. I used to tell my students that if you work hard, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the job of your life. Because back in my days, they used to say, oh, you work hard, you go to school, and do all that stuff, and then you will win, like you reach to what you want. I always also tell them, find the connection, make the schmoozing, create the right connection for you, introduce yourself. Let's say you're going to that's why I don't like Zoom classes, because you need to know your professor and they need to get to know you. So I always say, you're in the classroom, you're studying something that you like, go to that professor, introduce yourself, shine from all the other people that are there and be the unique one, ask the question and create the interest. So in my idea, and again, I'm not that prone into LinkedIn because back when I was looking for a job, LinkedIn was barely there. It's write that thing or put the picture that it's a little bit outside of what everyone else is doing, just for the eye, pop and to look at it. But yeah, it takes time and you need to become an expert and you need to go through a lot of the applicants. But same way as in Tinder, many times, many people are saying, oh, I'm looking for a real relationship, and actually they're married. So you can go through the same heartbreak of thinking that this job is real, but it's not because they have having applicants from insiders, or you invest in that relationship and that person is not even available. So we need to put ourselves out there. But I want to go, before we end, is what is your vision? Because like you're talking about these different kind of aspects. So in that world, what will be like the thing that you want to see?
My dream is to work with places like Soho House, Equinox, the membership clubs, that there are so many of them, and work on how they can better leverage and better service their members into giving them what they want. And it's a win-win situation for everyone, because you have all these membership, and the reason that people go there, the reason that people are paying, the reason that they show up is because they want that in-person connection. And each of them needs something else. So House is not the same thing as Chez Margot. It's different experiences, but those and the gala events and the community and the organization, there's so much that we can do into leveraging and building processes that would take off the friction and would help human beings find what they look for in a manner that is more humanity based and not technology first. So that's my dream.
And how will you vision it? I'm stretching you here, because like what comes to my mind is creating communities. It's all going back about
But
the
that's
creating
the
the
beauty
community.
thing. We don't need to create communities. There are so many places that already have those communities. Soho House has a huge community
So how
that
do
is
you
very
build the
assorted.
connection in the community, inside the community?
So you leverage technology in their app and you leverage processes within their app into creating those connections. And it's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of testing things and being very mindful and very cautious into a task that I can do at Soho House, I cannot do in Shamalgo. Because like the more you go up, like you cannot really mess it up. And it's a different clienteling. But you really want to start testing and nudging slightly users and members and seeing what works and seeing how you can connect them. And that's where we're going to explore within the next episodes into what are some of those things that we can implement in those spaces, again, from an individual perspective, but also from a corporate perspective, and what are some of those tricks that we can implement in technology and in those offline spaces that would do better for everyone.
Yeah, it's going back to my happiness hub. It's about the wholesomeness. It's what Tal calls the whole being, because we are. It's that or this or that, or it's not a question of or. It's the end, the beauty of the end. It can be all those things coming together instead of fighting one another.
Yeah.
But it goes, as you said, back to the relationships, back to the community, back to the connections.
Yeah. And you know what's like most frustrating is that we actually find more emphasis in places that are not helpful for us. And so I'll give an example. The egg freezing that is so popular now, it's what it does is like it solves the problem, but in a way that creates it's even worse, because instead of when we have a very dire situation that needs fixing, we fix it. But when we kind of put all those patch and be like, okay, like I don't have to find someone now, I can do it. And like I can egg freeze and then in my 50, my body is not equipped to carry at 50. I might be able to, but it's not how I should be. And what it creates is for me in my 30, when I don't want to go out that much and it's my exact time to have a family, I'm unable to find someone. I'm egg freezing, which is very costly. Instead of, in a way, by solving that technically, we're creating a bigger issue because we're not solving the fundamental issue that is below it, that we are looking for love. We are looking for that human connection. And instead of solving it, putting patches, and then we don't solve the problem. We don't emphasize the actual problem that is existing.
And also, as you said, it's getting outside of your comfort zone, because sometimes those technological solutions are good because we didn't have them back in the day, but they are not substitute for the real thing.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, yeah, we as humans, we're social beings. We need to sit by the bonfire. We need to know who our crowd is, and we need to put ourselves out there in order to find. So the question will be where to invest our eggs.
Yeah.
But that will be for next time.
So I'm excited.
Same here.
Yeah. And for the CEO of Soho House, I have the A team, really. Let's talk. Yes. No, but I'm excited to continue to talk.
Yeah. And I like the way that it's going to different kind of ideas.
Until next time.
Until next time.